Welcome to today's Explainer. We are diving straight into how these massive, high-level global handshakes are actually trickling all the way down to the price you pay at the pump and the exact budget of your local city. So buckle up, grab a coffee because we've got a lot of ground to cover today, and the connections here are absolutely fascinating. All right, here is our roadmap for today's deep dive. We're going to hit four main areas. First, global geopolitics and diplomacy. Second, the economy and petroleum prices. Third, some really landmark judicial court rulings. And finally, provincial budgets and governance. Let's kick things off with a Section 1, Global Geopolitics and Diplomacy, specifically looking at the new U.S.-Iran Memorandum of Understanding. Now, to really grasp this deal, we have to read between the lines and look at the boundaries being drawn. Iranian Supreme Leader Ayatollah Khamenei explicitly stated he authorized this based on the president's promises. But listen closely to the phrasing here. He noted that future talks will happen, sure, but they absolutely will not accept any excessive American demands. It's a super delicate diplomatic dance, right? You're cracking the door open to dialogue while still fiercely guarding your sovereignty. And it's wild how completely polarized the world's reaction to this has been. Over in our region, players like Pakistan and Iran are expressing some real diplomatic optimism. They're celebrating this as a genuine pathway to stability and mutual support. But then you look at the U.S., and there's just fierce domestic friction over it. Politicians like J.D. Vance are heavily criticizing the deal, framing the whole thing through the lens of U.S.-Israel relations, and claiming Donald Trump is the only genuinely pro-Israel leader. It perfectly captures how one single international document can be hailed as a massive triumph by some, and literally a betrayal by others. So what does this actually look like on the water? Well, the immediate reality is that the U.S. military has officially lifted its naval blockade on Iranian ports. There is now zero hindrance to shipping movements in the Gulf. I mean, that is a total game changer for global supply chains. But don't think the U.S. Navy is just packing up and going home. Their vessels are definitely staying in the region to closely monitor the implementation of the MOU. So it's an easing of tensions, for sure, but with a very watchful eye. Here's where it hits close to home. Why does this matter to us domestically? Because Pakistan actually played a huge backstage role in making this happen. It's being recognized as a major diplomatic triumph. Leaders from both the U.S. and Iran, Presidents Trump and Pezeshkian, heavily praised the relentless behind-the-scenes efforts of Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif and Field Marshal Asim Munir. Stepping in as a trusted bridge during such an incredibly tense geopolitical standoff, that is a massive injection of diplomatic capital for Pakistan on the world stage. Okay, moving right along to Section 2, Economy and Petroleum Prices. Let's see how those global drops are impacting our local markets. $77, that is the magic number right now, guys. Literally, the moment news broke about the U.S.-Iran deal and those vital shipping lanes opening up, global oil markets breathed a massive sigh of relief. Brent crude dropped down to $77 a barrel, and WTI crude fell to $74. Basically, when geopolitical anxiety drops, the risk premium baked into the price of oil drops right along with it. Now, you might be wondering, how does a drop in global crude actually help me at the gas pump? Well, first off, Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif directed immediate local price cuts. But more importantly, beyond just a one-off quick fix, he's put together a high-level committee to draft a completely new weekly pricing formula. And the crucial part? This isn't just happening behind closed doors. It's going to be finalized with full consultation from all stakeholders. This is a structural shift designed to make sure local prices reflect global price drops way faster. Of course, economic policy always brings some debate, right? PPP Chairman Bilal Abudu Zadari voiced some really nuanced views in the whole thing. On the one hand, he's strongly opposed to the increase in the petroleum levy. He argues the provinces simply aren't getting their fair share, especially after making huge sacrifices to prevent a national default. But then on the flip side, he praises the Prime Minister for expanding the Benazir Income Support Program. He actually went as far as calling that social welfare initiative essential for national security. It's a really clear look at the tightrope you have to walk in coalition economics. Meanwhile, the financial markets are quite literally voting with their wallets. Fueled by this surge of economic optimism, the easing oil prices plus the big diplomatic wins, the Pakistan Stock Exchange just went on a phenomenal rally. The market shot up by 887 points, closing at an unprecedented, record-breaking 81,398 points. I mean, that number represents a truly massive surge in overall investor confidence. All right, shifting gears to Section 3, Landmark Judicial Court Rulings. We're looking at cases that are redefining justice and inheritance. This next one is a real game changer. It's easily one of the most consequential decisions for civil rights we've seen lately. In the Bibi Omna case, the Federal Constitutional Court firmly declared that inheritance is a divine right. It is not something to be arbitrarily dictated by the state or by local customs. They actually nullified a previous Balochistan High Court decision, making it crystal clear. Absolutely no regional custom or traditional family system can strip a woman of her rightful inheritance. And they've ordered civil courts to strictly determine the legal shares of all parental properties going forward. This is just a monumental victory for women's legal rights. In another really major appellate decision, the Supreme Court, Karachi Registry, overturned the previous verdicts in the highly publicized Baldia Town factory case. They officially acquitted Zubair and Rahman, also known as Bola. Now, what's important here is the core of this decision. It all came down to a foundational principle of our justice system. The prosecution simply failed to prove the charges against them beyond a reasonable doubt. Concurrently, the justice system is also managing some massive high-profile political cases, specifically the £190 million case involving the PTI founder. Right now, it's tied up in administrative delays over simple procedures like getting power of attorney signatures from the jail administration. Because of this drag, the Chief Justice just mandated a strict 7-day deadline for the Advocate General's office to comply with court orders. All this procedural housecleaning is essentially setting the stage for the main appeals hearing, which is scheduled for the end of June. Okay, final stretch. Section 4. Provincial budgets and governance. Let's talk about how we are actually managing resources locally. Up in Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, we are seeing a fascinating display of political pragmatism. Despite some really intense friction, and the fact that PTI leadership is legally barred from consulting their founder in jail, PTI Chairman Barrister Gohar has committed full assembly support for the Chief Minister to pass the upcoming budget. Basically, they are completely separating their political grievances from the immediate practical necessity of keeping the provincial government funded and running. Over in Sindh, the provincial budget is reflecting some incredibly strict fiscal realities. It's tight, guys. Chief Minister Murad Ali Shah had to make some really tough calls to balance the books. So while they did manage a 7% increase for salaries and pensions to help folks with inflation, they've introduced absolutely zero new development schemes this year. None. They're banking heavily on an expected 263 billion rupee grant from the federal government. And for major infrastructure projects like the KD Bandar port, they're pivoting entirely to public-private partnerships to avoid draining provincial coffers. It's very much a budget focused on pure survival and stabilization. So step back for a second. We've traced the path today from global diplomacy all the way to the price of oil, through our justice system right down to the nitty-gritty of local city budgets. As we wrap up this explainer, we really have to look at the big picture and ask ourselves, how effectively can Pakistan actually leverage this brand new diplomatic capital earned by mediating the US-Iran MOU to navigate and solve these very real domestic economic and political challenges? The pieces are literally all on the board right now. The next moves are what will define the nation's trajectory. Thanks so much for hanging out with me for this analysis. Keep asking those big questions, and I'll catch you in the next explainer.